I'm so sorry. This is a video I should have done weeks ago. I just didn't know how I felt about the LTA stuff when it first came out. And I think part of that is because we've had little pieces of it given to us over this year. First, we knew something was coming. Then I think in sometime like June or July, we found out some of the more specifics, even so much that I think people forgot that we already knew about the fact that there were going to be 3 splits in Fearless Draft whenever this announcement came out this month. So we've just had all these little different things. And so when it finally hit me, I kind of felt nothing. And I think some people might be looking at that and be like, oh, maybe Travis doesn't care, he's lost his... No, I still deeply care about North American League of Legends esports. It's just, I don't truly know how to process all the changes that are coming, and I'm very uncertain. And so I figure what I'll do in this video is just kind of give you all the negatives and advantages or pluses that have been going through my mind on all this stuff, and why I think they kind of all narrow each other out to the point where I'm like, well, okay, I guess we'll see what happens. But first, did you know that the median salary for back-end web developers in 2023 was over $100,000? That's right, programmers have amazing earning potential, and now you can learn skills and become a programmer with today's sponsor, Boot.dev. It's been so cool. I've actually heard from many of you, including some friends of mine, and people have been really happy and satisfied with the product. I think part of the reason they've enjoyed it so much is because the smartest way to learn to code is to make sure that you're never bored, and Boot.dev is online, self-paced, and it feels like a captivating RPG game. The platform is designed to get you writing a ton of code because getting your hands on the keyboard and shipping projects is the only way to really learn, and you can learn backend web development from start to finish with Boot.dev in the Python and Go programming languages. While using Boot.dev, you can earn XP, levels, achievements, and even complete quests to earn top spots on the global leaderboard. They also know that not everyone has the means to pay for membership, so I think it's so cool that all their content is free to read and watch in guest mode, and paid membership is actually what unlocks interactivity and the game that goes completely with it. Click my link in the description box below and use the code to save 25% off your first month, or even the entire cost of an annual plan if that's what you choose to go for. Thank you so much to Boot.dev for sponsoring this video. All right, we're gonna go down the list alternating something I like and something I dislike. But first, let me just give you something I don't care about, which is the name and the logo. LTA, yes, it's kind of goofy, but none of us are gonna be thinking about that 6 months from now. It will just be the abbreviation that we all use. I think the bigger question for me will be like, are we gonna call this LTA-N and LTA-S or whatever for North and South? It's kind of long. Do you say LTA North? The conference stuff is kind of weird to me, but for now, I don't really care. The logo looks fine. It's better, I think, than maybe the LCS logo was, but I don't know. We'll see what happens. On the things that I like, let's start off with the format stuff. I think it is really cool that we are going to 3 splits. I think that throughout the entirety of my coverage of League of Legends, especially in the earlier years whenever we had these longer formats, you would just hit these stall points where I'd be trying to cover the sport and it would be like week 6 of spring, and I'd be like, okay, well, we now know who's good and who isn't, and let's just get us to playoffs so that we can get to MSI, so that we can get to summer, so that we can get to Worlds, right? And now we have a much more dynamic format. I think it is cool that each split offers a different sort of story and a different approach to it. We'll see how Fearless Draft goes. I think there's a lot of positive community sentiment for Fearless Draft, which is why I'm excited about it, but I think I am a little more skeptical on whether or not people feel like this is competitive long term. I do find it funny that a lot of the people that are pushing for best of 3s also want Fearless Draft, and I think they usually push for best of 3s because they feel like it's a better competitive envisioning of the sport, and I think Fearless Draft kind of is a little bit more random, but I do like the format. I do like what they are doing there. I dislike a little bit that we have less spots at international events, and when I say we, I mean North America, because I make content for North American fans, and Riot has not convinced me yet that I make content for America's fans. So I'm hyper-focused on the North American fans and the North American teams, and we just have less spots overall. We have 1 less spot for MSI. We have at least 1 less spot for Worlds. So that is, that's a bit of a bummer, and I do wonder how much that will maintain North American interest in international events, which quite frankly, I feel like has mostly been waning outside of people that like to tune in for finals to see Faker lift his 17th trophy. Back in the plus column, I also really like the fact that we have the chance for rivalry. The LCS has missed for a long time legitimate rivalry. The last one I think that we had that was significant was the TSM CLG rivalry. And I know there's probably some Cloud9 fans will be like, yeah, but like we had that whole thing with Team Liquid and stuff. No, I'm talking about a rivalry where people actively, passionately hold signs and root against or for each other. I'm talking about 2015 MSG, when you had TSM chants that got drowned out by the CLG chants as CLG started winning, and you had so much pressure put on that because of years and years and years of build-up between these two organizations. So I don't think we've had anything like that in a very long time, even if we've had storylines between two different teams. And I think we finally have a chance to do that with the North and South Conference stuff, which I think rivalry is incredibly important for sports and for people to get more entrenched and more passionate about their teams. So I do think that that will be really cool. On the other hand, and this is very specific to me, I'm a little worried about what it's going to cost to cover that rivalry. So I think it will be more difficult for third-party media and content creators to cover a lot of this stuff, because I was looking at the roadmap for next year, and in the past I've just had to be like, okay, I'm going to go to like 2 North American road shows. This year it was only 1, and that was in LA. And then you also go to MSI. This year I didn't go because it was in China. It was just like tough to get to. And then I go to Worlds. Next year I can go to Sao Paulo, Korea, come back, go to Canada for a while for MSI, come back. Then there's another road show for the domestic league. Then I come back and go to Worlds. That is a lot. It's a lot of travel. It's a lot of expenses for a lot of people. That is still cool for everybody else, but when we're talking about like the amount of events and all that type of stuff, I think that that is going to be really difficult. On the other hand, there's the general advantage of the fact that we get more international events. This is what some people have been clamoring for many, many years. In fact, ever since Riot took over, basically running the sport full time, and we lost things like IEM and all that type of thing. We know that we've had some of these side shows like EWC or the Asia Games, but we have not had something like this where they are actual Riot events happening for quite some time. And so the fact that we get to see 3 of these now with full Riot production, with full marketing, with everybody understanding that these are all kind of linked together in the same thing, I think that that is really, really cool. On the disadvantages, we have basically no North America road shows. Let me explain what that means, because there's still a road show. I just would argue it's not North American. This year, we lost Spring Split for the first time ever. We used to have a Spring Finals that was not in the studio. Outside of the COVID years, this is the first year where we weren't able to do that. And then they turned the summer show into an LA event, which was still, in my mind, a road show. You had a studio, you had like a bunch of, I don't know, pageantry around it. That was really neat, but it was definitely downsized. Next year, I would argue there are none. Why is that? Because this thing is just not going to be going on the road for any North America versus North America team events. So if you ever wanted to go into like a stadium, arena, a theater, or something like that and see 2 of your favorite teams clash in a finals, that is almost certainly not going to happen unless some crazy hijinks happen at an international event and North America gets 2 teams to the final. Look, those days are done. Because instead what we're going to be doing is having this whole thing where you have the Southern Conference and the Northern Conference play each other at these finals. So Mark confirmed on Hotline League that basically anytime that you see 2 North American teams duking it out, that will be happening in the studio for these spring and summer finals, right? The road show that takes place after summer finals is the big sort of America's Conference show. That is where we get teams from this like Brazilian conference to come up and play us. And by the way, next year, it is assumed, I think they may have even announced it at the media day or whatever, that instead of that being in North America, it'll then be next year in the South. So pretty confident that the days of the LCS final and anything that feels remotely like it are basically gone. And that is very sad. Back to the pluses, I think there are going to be more opportunities for players to stand out in a way that they didn't before. And yes, they could stand out in the LCS, but I was just talking to Drew a little bit about this, and he reminded me of how much attention Masu got on the international stage for his performance at Worlds this year. And I do think that the international community of League fans mostly just laughs at North America, and then when we go up to a Worlds event, unless we make some big splash, then they continue to laugh at us for another year. But I think with more international events, there will be more opportunity for our players, especially our domestic players, to get attention and credibility amongst the global fans and global players, because there's just going to be more opportunity for them to show up and do something really cool. I firmly believe that we do have really talented players in North America. As much as Reddit and everybody likes to meme on it, we've consistently created amazing players, often in the ADC position, but in other positions as well, that are able to surprise and delight fans whenever they get to an international event. So more international events just means more opportunity for these players, which I think can be really cool. I mean, I guess maybe, depending on how you look at it, because we did lose JoJo just now to LEC, maybe he got too much attention. But regardless, I think it's going to be really cool to potentially see something like that. On the other hand, we now have even less opportunity for North American talent to make their way onto a big stage. This has been dramatically decreasing in the last year and a half. Basically, in an 18-month period, you're looking at a situation where the amount of opportunities for North American talent to compete in any kind of like professional setting has gone down by more than 50%. It is basically a complete disaster in terms of what has happened between losing the Tier 2 system almost entirely, losing 2 additional LCS spots almost entirely, then having 2 of the remaining spots go into this world where we have a provisional team, we have a guest spot, and then we have a LATAM spot. I'm sure players will end up on all these, but I think they will be less supported than they were before. They will have less stability and less security. So it is kind of a bloodbath out there for North American talent in particular. Unfortunately for them, all these North American players were sacrificed on the altar of stability. So now, I guess you could say that all these cuts, whether it is a road show or it is a team or, I don't know, any of these other things that we've seen get, I guess, degraded over the past 2 or so years, have led to a system that should be more healthy long term. And while I will deride players and teams for their $1 million salaries over the past couple of years, I do think, and it is a good thing, that we are getting to a place where it's less likely that things will blow up in the next couple of years. I guess we'll have to see, but I do think that overall increasing the sustainability of the scene is good, even if it doesn't necessarily feel that way to fans. Fans will always want what they want at the highest levels, and they do not care how much it costs everybody else, until I think they realize that the whole system will go away if this does not get reined in. So the fact that we are hitting a more sustainable level, I think, is a good thing. And now we get to the biggest issue that I have with the LTA. We've had a lot of positives, we'll have had a lot of negatives, but I think this is the only thing that really makes me nervous and scared for the future of North American League of Legends esports, which is, I think it is a huge, huge mistake to get rid of the LCS brand. I say this because I think that there are so many people who have been huge fans of the LCS at some point in time of their life. They know what the LCS is. Even people who were not fans of it know what LCS is. LCS to me feels like, for so many people in America and Canada and even elsewhere, like it's like the Kleenex of esports to them, right? I can't tell you the amount of times in my life where I have interacted with like a casual League fan, and MSI happened the night before, or Worlds happened the night before, and they're like, oh, I missed LCS last night. You know, because in their mind, LCS is League of Legends esports. Now I know for a lot of international fans that might be like a little disturbing to hear, but I think it would probably be true for, you know, you and some of the casual esports fans that you might know. They might think of LEC or LCK. These brands have dominated the calendar for so much of the sports, you know, entirety of the past decade plus, that they have just become synonymous brands for the fans around the world that care about them. So, you know, as a great example, I go to so many Magic the Gathering events now, I know, and whenever I go to them, I consistently get people that come up to me and they go, oh, Travis, I used to watch all your stuff all the time when I used to watch the LCS. Now, there's some jokes in there on themselves, but the point is that I ask these people when they watched. Oh, I watched back in 2015. Oh, I watched in 2018. Oh, I was watching during COVID, but then I stopped watching afterwards. There's so many people who know what the LCS brand is and I think have positive sentiment towards it. I worry that there are some people inside Riot who have seen, Reddit sour on the LCS or see international jokes about the LCS and they think, oh, the brand is now toxic or it's less valuable. No, like these people have positive sentiment about the LCS, even if they're disappointed that like the teams weren't able to compete, or that their favorite team left. The brand, I think itself has really, really positive feelings to a lot of people, and people know what it is. So I worry now that, because when I meet these people at Magic events somewhere, it's like, you should watch LCS this weekend. It's got, Cloud9 and they're on some crazy streak, or there's a really cool story about 100 Thieves. Now I have to be like, you should watch LTA. What is LTA? Oh, well, remember LCS is kind of what LCS was. Okay, so I should just tune into the LTA channel? Okay, well, there's LTA South and LTA North, and so you actually probably want to watch LTA North. Wait, how do they exist? What are these two conferences? Okay, well, now they do this. Okay, well, when is LCS finals? Okay, well, there's not. You have to go through this whole re-education process for people, and even just like seeing people tweet about LTA or something on social media. Let's put it this way. Obviously, the LCS brand is not nearly on this level, but I don't think that the NBA or the NFL or MLB would ever, ever, ever want to change their brand unless something went horribly, horribly wrong, because they are so synonymous with the sport all over the place. Like people just know what these abbreviations mean. And while certainly my father does know. My uncle doesn't know what the LCS is. Many, 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 many gamers do. And so getting rid of this brand, I think, is going to be something that makes it really, really, really difficult to recover any of these lapsed fans. And before you say, well, maybe we should be focused on getting new fans. A lot of the new fans know what the LCS is too. They just haven't watched it. Like, you just have so much, what they say in the marketing world is like brand equity. It's really disappointing to see that go away. And I guess just to make sure that we're not ending on a negative note, I'll put one more thing on the positive side for what we just talked about, which is it is something new. I think that for a lot of people, they watched the LCS before, they've decided that they don't feel like watching the LCS again in the future. And so if you tell them that there's this new thing, maybe they are more likely to watch it. I personally believe that the brand equity of the LCS was stronger than the benefits of telling people that there's this new thing they can get excited about. But I don't know, LEC seemed to benefit from casting off the EU LCS name, so maybe LTA will benefit from that. Though I guess worth pointing out that EU LCS cast off the EU LCS part because they were part of this two thing that both called LCS, kind of like LTA North and LTA South. Oh, anyway, I'm going to cover this shit next year. We'll see what ends up happening. I'm at the point now where there's so many things on the negative and positive side of this for me that I'm back to where I was in 2012, where I say to Riot, like, hey, you guys have to convince me that this is a product that we should all care about. And they certainly have the work cut out for them, but I'm excited to see the teams playing, to learn what it's like to see North America and Brazil go head to head. I hear that Brazilian fans are back on Twitter again, so I'm looking forward to all those replies whenever I tweet something positive about the LCS. Anyway, we'll see you next time.